morning po. Kami po yung Group 5. Ang topic po namin is about bioremediation of contaminated soil and polluted groundwater. Introduction. Bioremediation is characterized as the process of biologically degrading mostly organic wastes to an innocuous state or levels below the respective concentration limits set by the regulating authorities under regulated conditions. Subilis et al. 2019. So bioremediation is a waste management process using living organisms to neutralize or remove harmful pollutants into less toxic substances from the contaminated areas tulad ng polluted groundwater.
May dalawang klase ng soil contamination. Ang una is point contamination, and the second one is diffuse contamination. So, ang point contamination, ito yung contamination sa isang lugar lang. Kadalasang nadudulot ito ng mga factories na nagre-release ng mga chemicals sa water, which results in polluting only nearby bodies of water. Pero sa diffuse contamination, ito naman yung pagkalat ng, although maliit na dose or maliit na contaminated or maliit na contaminants, pero kumakalat ito sa pamamagitan ng ibang environmental factors, katulad na lang sa mga palayan, sa yung mga pesticide is humahalo ito sa tubig at lalo pang kumakalat. So, where does it occur? So, ang pollution can be found in particular places such as dating industrial lands or areas subject to accidental spillage of contaminants, katulad sa mga dagat kapag may oil spillage, or sa mga industrial factory or facilities. And what causes it? So, kadalasan is tao talaga ang nagkakos nito, and majority in percentage, almost nasa 94 to 98% ang nagkakos ng pollution na galing sa tao. And as for the groundwater pollution naman, ay katulad lamang ito ng soil pollution, na less than 5% ang nagdudulot nito ay hindi galing sa tao. Which means intentionally man or hindi, tayo ang may kagagawan ng mga polluted groundwater. Especially sa mga maraming tao na nakatira or heavily polluted areas. This can happen when a contaminant seeps into a hole or crack or any deep hole na nagpo-provide ng pathways sa mga chemicals or other pollutants, and makakadalo ito kasama ng tubig sa ilalim ng lupa. So, ano nga ba yung mga groundwater contaminants? Yeah. So, ano nga ba yung mga sources of groundwater contamination? So, yung groundwater can be contaminated from a different various types of contamination, especially from human activities like residential, municipal, commercial, and industrial. And katulad ng example ko kanina, pwede rin mag-cause ng groundwater pollution ang mga farm na ginagamitan ng pesticide, and sasama yung pesticide sa water or sa irrigation, and then dadalo ito kung saan, or magsisip ito sa pinakailalim na lupa, at makakontaminate din ang natural water source. So, hindi lang yun ang mga nagkakos ng pollution, isa rin dito ang mga failed pipe system and ang leakage of underground petroleum storage from structure and other facilities. And may dalawang klase ng groundwater contamination, which is the first one is natural, and the second one is man-made or human-made. So as for natural, it is a substance found naturally in rocks or soil, katulad ng iron, manganese, or arsenic, at marami pang iba na pwedeng ma-dissolve sa groundwater. So, humahalo ito sa groundwater and then mako-contaminate ang main source ng water, and other naturally occurring substances such as decaying organic matter katulad ng mga patay na ibon or hayop and like fruits at iba pang mga nabubulok na bagay. So, as for the human-made or man-made, maraming klase ng contamination. Isa na dito ang landfills na mga pinanggagalingan ng mga basura ng tao and pinaka main cause ng groundwater contamination. And yung isa is releasing and spills from storage of chemicals and petroleum products. And the other one is improper disposal of hazardous waste. Ito yung mga kadalasang problema sa mga factories na tinatapon lang sa tubig or sa lupa and then nagsisips ito sa groundwater and makakontaminate na ang main source of water katulad ng sinabi ko kanina. And yung iba pa is improper disposal of hazardous waste, surface impoundments, sewers and other pipelines, pesticides and fertilizers use, drainage wells and mining activities. Lahat to is magkakos ng groundwater contamination. At yun lang po.
Technique used in bioremediation is XC2 and NC2. XC2. Bioreactors, land farming, and biofiles are examples of XC2 bioremediation techniques. A bioreactor is used to mix polluted soil with water and nutrients, then agitate the mixture with a mechanical bioreactor to induce microorganism activity. This approach is better than suited to clay soils than other approaches, and it is also relatively simple process. US EPA 2006. Sa XC2, kailangan niya ng contaminated water para ma-pound out yon at para matanggal yung contaminated soil. Yung contaminated soil and water are treated with microorganism. So, yung approach na to is mabilis, saka madali lang din. And para ito, ginagamit to para ma-treat yung wider range ng contaminant and soil types than in situ approach. But this is only used when necessary kasi masyado siyang expensive. And then yung damaging area, since yung contaminated land is physically removed. Land farming. Due to its low cost and low equipment requirements, land farming is one of the most easy and effective bioremediation techniques. Polluted soil are excavated and tilled on a daily basis, and the method of bioremediation depends on the treatment site. Land farming, the simplest form of bioremediation, ito involves ng spreading ng contaminated soil into a lined bed para ma-prevent yung leaching and apply ng nutrients na imimix sa soil para mag-boost yung biological activity. Land farming requires large areas at hindi siya suitable para sa mga maliliit lang na areas or sites. It's very simple to design and implement. It requires low capital input din siya.
Good day, everyone. I am Albert, and we will be talking about windrows and bioreactors. So, windrows are a bioremediation technique that involves rotating contaminated soil piles on a regular basis to boost bioremediation by increasing microbial degradation activities of native and transient hydrocarbonoclastic present in the polluted soil. So if you ever see one of the windrows, or if you ever been into a farm, you can see that there are several techniques or farming techniques wherein they will pile up soils on roads or even on the fields themselves. They will pile them up in order to release some of the microbial agents found within the soil, and in order to get the most out of them. So technically, we are trying to dig out most of the nutrients, and we are trying to spread them out as evenly as possible in order to get the optimum microbial activity for bioremediation. So this is what Windrose is doing. The next one is bioreactor. It is a vessel that converts raw materials into specific products via a series of biological reactions. Their designs are versatile, allowing for full biological degradation while minimizing abiotic losses. So we have in the past few weeks been discussing about different bioreactors and their design, so we're very much familiar with what one do. So they specifically promote conversion of raw materials into specific desired products through the use of organic processes, which is sometimes or which is mostly exacerbated or promoted by microbial growth and their related biological processes, such as the great example perhaps would be the nitrification caused by nitrifying bacteria in situ. The term in situ bioremediation refers to the treatment of soil when it's still in place. Bioventing is a form of in situ biostimulation treatment in which oxygen and or nutrients are injected into the soil via injection wells. The distribution of oxygen and nutrients in the polluted soil must be even. So in situ meaning we are not really taking out the sample out of its original place. Rather, we are taking our equipment and our tools in order to give that particular sample the optimum conditions for when it can harbor microbial life or biological activity. So imagine we are bringing or imagine treating, say, an injured endemic species which is illegal to be transported anywhere. So we have veterinarians going in there to treat them with their medicine and their medical equipment. So that's what in situ means. We are taking our expertise, our tools, and our equipment to the site without altering or without taking out what we need to treat. So in situ bioremediation, there are different types. One is intrinsic bioremediation and the other is engineered bioremediation. Intrinsic bioremediation is a type of bioremediation that manages the innate capabilities of naturally occurring microbes to degrade contaminants without taking any engineering steps to enhance the process. So we take it as it is. The putative effects or the capabilities of organisms already found on the site, that's what we are actually looking for. It's as if we are conducting a research without altering any of the variables to our advantage and just hoping for the best, since we believe that their capabilities or the biochemical capabilities of the organisms already present on the site will be able to bring us results that we are actually wanting. So no intervention is done. We just hope for the best and we just assess the microbial component of the site in order to do the bioremediation. For engineered bioremediation, it is a type of remediation that increases the growth and degradative activity of microorganisms by using engineered systems that supply nutrients, electron acceptors, and or other growth stimulating materials. So remember when we were growing up culture media, or we are we are growing fungi on our laboratory, we are supplying them nutrients from agar in order to promote their growth. This is similar, however, aside from supplying nutrients, we also ensure that we are providing them the best environment in order for them to reach optimal growth and optimal biochemical condition to achieve our goals in a short period of time without waiting for them to or without waiting for nature to naturally take its course. So there is human intervention. We give them what they need. We alter their environment to their liking in order for them to grow, or in order for the microbes to grow well in a short span of time in order to perform the remediation fast enough and as optimal as possible.
Now let's move on to the types of organisms used in bioremediation. Typically, bioremediation is based on the cometabolism action of one organism or a consortium of microorganisms. Sa process na to, yung transformation ng contaminants nagpapakita ng little efficiency or walang benefit dun sa cell. And therefore, yung process na yun is described as non-beneficial biotransformation. Several studies have shown that many organisms have a natural capacity to absorb toxic heavy metal ions. Examples of microorganisms studied na ginagamit for bioremediation treatments for heavy metals are algae, bacteria, fungi, and yeast. The way in which microorganisms interact with heavy metal ions is partially dependent on whether they are eukaryotes or prokaryotes. Kasi yung eukaryotes, sila yung more sensitive sa metal toxicity compared sa prokaryotes. The possible modes of interactions are active extrusion of metal, intracellular chelation by various metal binding peptides, and transformation into other chemical species with reduced toxicity. Para maging effective yung bioremediation, yung microorganisms, kailangan nilang i-attack yung pollutants and i-convert yun into harmless products. Bacteria and higher organisms have developed mechanisms associated with resistance to toxic metals and rendering them innocuous. So, several microbes, including aerobes, anaerobes, and fungi, are involved in the enzymatic degradation process. At dahil maraming iba't ibang types of pollutants na pwedeng present sa contaminated site, nakadepende dun kung anong type or klase ng microorganisms yung kailangan para maging effective yung remediation. May ibang types ng microorganism na kayang i-degrade yung petroleum hydrocarbons and gamitin yun as source of carbon and energy. Kaso yung pagpili sa organisms na gagamitin is paiba-iba. Kasi nakadepende yun dun sa chemical nature ng polluting agents and kailangan piliing mabuti kasi nakaka-survive lang sila sa presence ng limited range of chemical contaminants. Yung efficiency ng degradation process is related to the potential of the particular microorganism to introduce molecular oxygen into the hydrocarbon and to generate the intermediates that subsequently enter the general energy-yielding metabolic pathway of the cell. So, numerous microorganisms can utilize oil as a source of food, and many of them produce potent surface active compounds that can emulsify oil in water and facilitate its removal. So, bacteria that can degrade petroleum products include species of Pseudomonas, Aeromonas, and Moraxella. The next po is indicators of microbial activity. So, the first one is chemical changes. Bioremediation alters the groundwater chemistry. So, yung chemical changes na yun, meron silang sinusundan na physiological principle ng microorganism na minention ko before. Microbial metabolism catalyzes reactions that consume well-defined reactants. contaminants and oxygen or other electron acceptors para ma-convert yun into well-defined products. The next one is adaptation by native organisms. In addition to producing chemical changes in the groundwater, bioremediation can alter the metabolic capabilities of native microorganisms. Usually naman kasi yung microorganisms hindi agad nakakapag-degrade ng contaminants upon initial exposure. Pero pwede nilang ma-develop yung capability to degrade the contaminant after prolonged exposure. So, several mechanisms have been proposed to explain metabolic adaptation, including enzyme induction, growth of biodegrading populations, and genetic change. Kaso yung ibang proposals or studies nananatiling speculation lang kasi medyo mahirap aralin yung nature ng microbial community kung paano na-develop yun both in laboratory tests and sa field sites. So, adaptation occurs not only within single microbial communities but also among distinct microbial communities that may evolve a cooperative relationship in the destruction of compounds. So, yung isang community, pwedeng makapag-degrade sila ng contaminant, and yung second community naman, parang sila yung tutulong para mas lalong or makomplete yung chemical reaction. Yung type ng coupling na yun occurs naturally in anaerobic food chains that convert plant-derived organic compounds to methane. So, ayun. The next one is growth of predators. Although bacteria are the agents for biodegradation during bioremediation, yung ibang organisms na ginagawang prey yung bacteria, pwede rin sila mag-grow as a result of bioremediation. For example, yung protozoa, sila yung most common bacterial predators.
So, here are the advantages of bioremediation. First, it is a natural process. Second, it requires very little effort and can be done on site on a daily basis and without disrupting normal microbial activity. Plus, it has a quick turnaround time to make soil and water useful. Next, it is cost-effective in a way na hindi siya nagre-require ng madami para ma-maintain. Tapos, hindi siya gumagamit ng dangerous chemicals as it is all natural nga. Next, it is easy, labor-intensive, and inexpensive due to their natural role in the environment, pertaining yun sa mga bacteria and other organisms na involved sa bioremediation. Kagaya ng ibang bagay, may disadvantages din yung bioremediation. And as the name suggests nga, bio. So, it isn't effective on things made out of plastic, for example nga. Tapos, some new biodegradation products may be more toxic than the original compounds na tinutunaw gamit ng bioremediation. Next, biological processes are highly specific and environmentally sustainable. Therefore, nagre-require sila ng existence of metabolically active microbial species, appropriate environmental growth conditions, and the availability of nutrients and pollutants, among other factors. Tapos, research is required to develop and engineer bioremediation technologies that are suitable for sites with complex mixtures and pollutants that are not uniformly distributed in the ecosystem. Itong mga complex mixtures na to, they may be present in the form of solid, liquid, or gas. Lastly, it is difficult to scale up bioremediation process from bench and pilot scale to large-scale field operations.
So, ang itatopic ko naman ngayon is about phytoremediation. And phytoremediation is a form of bioremediation which plants are used to eliminate, convert, stabilize, and or destroy pollutants from the soil and groundwater. So basically, it refers to the use of plants and associated with water and bacteria to eliminate or to reduce concentration of toxins and contamination from the surface. And phytoremediation is a widely accepted cost-effective environmental restoration technology. So, kadalasan ginagamit ito is para ma-lessen yung or para ma-reduce yung contamination sa isang surface using a plant. And may iba't ibang klase ng phytoremediation. May apat na klase, and first of all is rhizosphere bioremediation. And in this process, yung plants is nagre-release ng natural substance through its roots. And ito yung nagsusupply ng nutrients sa mga microorganism na present doon. And then, the same microorganism will be enhanced in biological degradation. So, makakatulong yung nutrients na yun para ma-reduce or ma-lessen yung toxics or toxins sa isang um, lugar. Like for example, water or soil. And the second one is extraction. So in this process, plants' roots absorb the contaminants along with the nutrients and water. So basically, sisipsipin niya yung water and along with the contaminants. At ang mangyayari doon is i-store niya yung mga yung contaminants sa shoot or leaves ng isang plant. So mag-stay lang to doon. And in the third one is volatilization. And in this process, and same lang siya sa kanina, which is phytoextraction. But dito, yung plants, i-absorb niya yung organic contaminants, and then i-release niya ito sa air gamit yung leaves niya. So, yung sa nauna, i-store lang. Ngayon, i-release niya sa air naman. And for the last part is hydraulic control. So, in this process, trees indirectly remediate by controlling groundwater movement. So, instead na mapupunta yung water sa may contaminated site, mariredirect ito sa mas malinis na lugar or surface para hindi na ito makontaminate. So, that's all. Thank you.